Okay, everyone, welcome back to Sabado podcast. And today we are joined with none other than the SBD Sheffield champion, female champion, Evie Corrigan, and her coach, Jason. So yeah, how's it going, guys? How are you feeling since the return back home and winning Sheffield?
I think it's still kind of surreal, to be honest. It's so strange to come off of like a competition like that, and then come home and just like go back to work and be like, yep, just regular life now, like still a normal person that has to like do their job and get back into training and all that. So I think, yeah, it's still kind of sinking in.
Cool. I actually, I'm gonna straight right off the bat ask you the question, Evie, and Jason, actually, because you're the mastermind behind her moves now, I guess. Since the announcement from Ben Banks going, oh, the winners of Sheffield pretty much get an automatic invite for the next Sheffield. Was that sort of like, yo, I kind of probably don't even need to do well at this point, or was it just like, all right, fuck it, let's do well, see what we're doing, and then go to Sheffield again?
Well,
Got it.
actually part of that, like the condition for that automatic invite was that we had to do worlds. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry,
they
yeah.
they yeah, they planned that so that like we wouldn't just be like, yeah, cool, I'm just like only gonna do Sheffield now, like every year, just like put all of my chips in the one bucket.
Yeah, that's my bad. Yeah, I forgot about that little stipulation there. Like, I
But
know
that mean
he
that
done.
that word you have to do, you can sandbag it, right? You don't need to win.
Yeah,
You just have to be there. So
yeah. I
Jason,
think
so Jason, what's the plan there?
I think like as prestigious as winning Sheffield is, winning a world championship's like right up there.
Mm. Well, what,
And there's still work to do.
well, you know what? See, we were just talking about this before the recording started, but as Jason said, I was trying to. Well, I wasn't intentionally trying to get him inebriated the night before Sheffield. Yeah.
Takes
But
a bit.
he was asking me questions the night before. Evie was like, "Oh, who do you think's coming first, second, third?" And obviously, I was choosing my picks. I don't even remember now what my picks were.
Jason,
But
do you remember?
I think you said Carl,
mm,
Noemi,
yeah,
and maybe Jad. I don't know.
I
Maybe
I,
a
th-
man.
I think
But I think
it was either that or Tiff. It was either that or Tiff.
Oh yeah, maybe
Joe
Tiff. Yeah, no, it was Tiff
Joe
actually.
was definitely drunk. I can tell you that because on the car driving to Sheffield, right? On the car driving to Sheffield, that was the conversation. Who's gonna come first, second, third? And Evie's name was mentioned in there. But we did not mention Evie's name saying like, oh, she's gonna come and did what she did, literally like cut everybody's head. That's what she done. Right? We didn't know that she's gonna do that. We just knew that there's something sus going on around here. You know, the way these Evie and Jason been so quiet about it, there's no podcast, no Instagram posts and shit like that. They've been everything on the cool. I was like, something is happening. Something heavy is happening here. So, but in terms of like one, two, three, we personally, I mean, this is from my personal opinion. I would not sit here and say, oh yeah, Evie's gonna win, but we knew something was coming. So, is my question leading to that, Jason? What moment did you, because as much as Evie, she's the one that did the job on the platform, because sometimes when we're on the platform, we don't care about our coaches. We're the one that do the job. So by the way, Joey, sorry, I'm sorry about saying that. Joey is my coach, by the way. So Jason, in one moment did you sat there and thought, "Do you know what? We can win this shit if we go 52."
Well, it's probably like I'd always known that the 52 world record was the like easiest. It's the weight class you want to be in for something like that's structured in the way Sheffield is. Because like if you look at the record at the time, it was like post worlds, it was 438,
Mm.
and like the 57 world record was, I think when I really looked at it in December, it was about 495 and a half. And like even just looking at those numbers, it's only 5 kilos difference in body weight. It's a huge spread. So I'd always kind of known that. I always felt as though 52 was missing like a real superstar. Like, don't get me wrong, Noemi is a superstar, and she showed that at Sheffield. But I always felt like we were yet to see someone really own that class. And basically, after how Evie performed at Commonwealth, I sat down, looked at all the numbers, and I actually remember getting quite like anxious about looking at it because I was like, fuck, this is what we need to do. But this is not what I want to do. And this is not what Evie's going to want to do either. Because, I mean, like, as a coach, man, I fucking hate telling people to go down and wait.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like there's a lot of variability that comes with that. And it's not something that I want to do. But this is different, right? There's money on the line. Like,
Yeah.
this is the sort of scenario where you want to put it all out there. So I actually, I was sitting here right in my fucking office, crunching the numbers, and I remember going out and talking to my partner and being like, fuck, I think we need to do this thing. And like, she understands powerlifting, but like, she's not fully invested like I am. And she was like, well, why are you worried about it? I was like, because it's like so risky. And she was like, well, why not? Why wouldn't you not just fucking do it? And I was like, it's a good point, but like, there's a lot on the line here if we get this wrong. So I think at that point, and then I reached out to Kedrick afterwards, and it was really started to become a reality that this is probably the route that we should go. And then it was just a matter of convincing Evie pretty much from there, which took a little bit of persuading, but I think once I kind of threw out the figures, that helped a lot.
Well, it sort of sounds like high risk, high reward, like sort of situation for Evie. What was the highest rewarding motivator for you, Evie, then to go down? I mean, because you used to be a 52 when you were a junior. You know, obviously you gone up to the 57s. You were like, all right, cool, I'm comfy here. I don't have to cut. Well, prior to Sheffield, of course, but you don't have to cut anymore. You're sitting comfortably at 57, and then having a conversation with Jason, like, oh shit, I have to cut again. Like, what's going on? But what was it that, I guess, the turning point for you to be like, all right, fuck it, let's do this cut?
So basically, like, Jason went through and he worked out all the numbers for me, and he worked out like, you know, how much I could lose off of my total and how far over the world record we'd still be. But he also went out and mapped everyone else's numbers. So everyone who'd been invited so far, he went and found like their best competition results, their best like gym results, and worked out how far over the world record they were in their weight class. And that was, usually I don't pay attention to any of that stuff. Like, it kind of psychs me out. I just focus on myself. But that was the moment that I was like, oh, okay, this is a real big play, because at that point, Jason had worked out that I had the potential to win and that I had the potential to walk away with the deadlift world record. So he kind of like called it in like December that that's what was going to happen, or that we had that potential. And then that's what ended up happening. So that was sort of like, you know, if you get a shot at winning something this big, you got to take it. And I mean, the money was a factor as well, but I think just being Jason was like, imagine you being the first person to win Sheffield. I was like, yeah,
which you are now. Jesus Christ. Jason, in terms of like what Evie mentioned there, that you pretty much crunch all the numbers across the board, across everybody that, I mean, I'm sure just all the ladies that had an invite. My question to you is, did you had in mind, or did you ever thought Evie would be hitting 460, or it was something like, you know what, you can get 450 or something like that?
Well, I think I like probably at that point had it projected below that. But realistically, all it was like, okay, it was 468 at Commonwealth at like 55. So at that point, like, to be honest, man, I never really got too caught up in the numbers. Like, Evie was saying to me for probably like a month, she's like, yeah, I reckon I could do 460. And I'm like, cool, we'll do what we can. Whereas like, you know, like I just thought no matter what happens at 52, I think we're going to be in a better position in the overall standings than we would be if we were at 57.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really the motivating factor for me. Yes, I was thinking, shit, we can win this, but I was also thinking, like, I just want to put Evie in the best position to do as good as she can. It was never like we're going to come and do 460 and we're going to shock everyone and we're going to win. It's just like, I think we'll do what we can and we'll just see how things go on the day and how training goes along the way, and manage things as they come. That was really the mindset for me, was like not getting ahead of myself, not really getting too caught up in the numbers. Like, honestly, every time Evie said 460 to me, I was like, cool, that would be nice, but I'm not really looking at those numbers. It's just like focusing on each day, and that's the kind of the main thing. And there's a lot of variables that go into it, especially when you travel all the way from here as well. So, it's nice to think in training, 460 is going to be good, but hey, you just got to see how things go on the day, have some strong openers in and see how you go. But I mean, like, 460 was the ideal plan, and that's what it ended up being. But we thought of those numbers probably about a month out, I'd say.
So
I think
now,
it got less risky
go on.
as we went on, eh? Like it went from being like really high risk, like quite worried about all the different things that we had to do, like the weight cut and like how training was going to go. And then like as we progressed through the plan, it was like becoming clear that like we were on track, particularly with like the numbers and stuff, like how things were moving. And then once we actually got to the UK, it was like, this is going well, like nothing too crazy yet.
Well, we had that one session. She got off the plane and trained at British Barbell like the day after. And I think you did lift 182.5, which is 20 kilos less than you did on the day. And that was like a full RPE 10, which just goes to show how much travel can affect you.
Yeah, I can imagine. But Jason, I'm gonna go back to that evening before Sheffield. I thought, man, how many beers has this guy had? Because when I asked him back the question, who is your top three? And he put you, Evie, as his first pick, right? Like, I don't know
No, I
if...
said I said she'll be top 3, but I don't know if she'll win.
Bro, you went Evie first, and then God knows who
Did
second
I?
and third were. Yeah, bro. Like, that's what I was like.
Too many beers, Jason.
I thought I because I basically didn't wasn't saying to anyone that I thought we were going to win, just because I don't know, I feel a bit superstitious in that
I don't
sense.
know.
And I actually wasn't really sure.
It got super slippery out of your tongue, bro, when you were like,
those are the British beers, bro. When you drink British beers, anything is possible.
That's true. He's
so
a fan of the
Evie-
cask ales.
Yeah, he is. He said
Man.
he was. Yeah.
Love it.
Even now
Tribute.
you are the superstar that Jason mentioned in the beginning, right? You are the superstar of not just the 52s, but you are the superstar of women powerlifting in IPF. Period. No doubt about it, right? You've proven people no amount of traveling can affect you guys from the Kiwis. No amount of traveling can affect you, because Colleen had done an amazing job to herself as well in terms of the way she performed. So my question is to you is, how does that feel though? Because I know you are a very close person as an individual. So how does it feel to be the poster girl of IPF? Because you are. Let's not be around the bushes, because at the moment is you and the rest. How does that feel?
I think a couple of years ago, there was a point where I was like, or even not even like late last year, that I was like, maybe I've peaked. Like maybe that's it for me. Like winning worlds as a junior, perhaps that was the highest I was ever gonna achieve. And like now I just need to change my goals in powerlifting and like just enjoy it and let it take a back seat and like think about putting my time into something else. So I think to like come from sort of being in that position where I was like I guess trying to like accept that maybe I wasn't gonna succeed in the way that I wanted to again, to winning Sheffield has sort of like blown my mind, because although I knew that I had the numbers in me, I didn't know that that was the outcome, like that was what was going to come from it. So I think sometimes, I guess, like you kind of just have to trust yourself and like keep trying to get better in yourself, and you don't know what will come out of that. Like, you don't know the day that other people are going to have, like how the competition is going to boil down. Like, just go there and do your absolute best, and maybe you'll win Sheffield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still like trying to wrap my head around it, because when I was invited, like I didn't put myself on the same level as those women. Like it was like there's all of those women, like these superstars that are like won multiple world championships and like current record holders and all the rest, and like, and there's me, like lucky little Evie from New Zealand who like gets to go, and like I was stoked with that. Like I was so stoked just to be invited and like to have the experience. But yeah, you just don't know what what's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
I don't know. It's funny
So
you mentioned. It's funny you mentioned that you claim yourself as lucky because I don't know, man. Like, luck can only take you so far, and then there's what you did, which was so like calculated that I don't think it was just luck anymore. It was just that much preparation that went into it. Like, you can't call that luck anymore. I'm sorry, Evie. I know you said that's how you were feeling, but nah, man, that's not luck anymore. That was definitely something. A lot of planning was involved. A lot of like just cold hard numbers being crunched by obviously Jason. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was gonna ask because I know obviously there's Sheffield and you've experienced a good number of worlds. How would you compare the experience in Sheffield as comparison to like the worlds that you've done? Like not just in terms of like obviously how the competition was, but like the crowd and the atmosphere and everything. Like, what would you say is like the striking differences?
They're like hugely different.
Yeah, how
I've never
so?
been to a worlds like Sheffield. I mean, and maybe there have been worlds like that, but I've been to three at
Mm-hmm.
this point. Usually, I think even if you're in a weight class that's like one of the popular battle ones, you know, like everyone's looking forward to like the 76ers or the 120 plus men or the 93 men, like looking, you know, the ones that everyone wants to come and watch. Even if you're one of those really popular weight classes, you still don't get a crowd like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
never have that many people who come to watch who are like, I guess, that hyped for it as well. Like usually it's pretty quiet
Yeah.
at a world's. Like the music, they're not allowed to use like any music that could be like copyrighted, so
Mm-hmm.
it's usually that has like no words, and like it's like turned right down.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like pretty quiet, and
Subdued.
I guess like, yeah, it's like more like it's a sporting event,
Mm-hmm.
less of like the performance that Sheffield was.
Mm-hmm.
um and like, I guess in terms of like how the announcer, I mean, Joe Whiteley does a great job, and like he also goes to worlds and
Mm-hmm.
announces there, but just, yeah, a whole different like atmosphere, like walking out to Sheffield versus walking out to worlds where you're like, yep, just have to like get the lift done, versus like feeling like a rock star walking on stage to like your like crowd of fans.
Yeah. Did you find the crowd overwhelming? Because like Durance and I were there and it was loud.
It
Like
was super loud, yeah, like
I lost
not
my I lost
overwhelming
my
though.
voice. I lost my voice for 3 days, literally.
Yeah. I heard quite a few people the next day with like very husky voices. Yeah, no, it was when I first walked out, because I was the first person out as well. I was the first person to squat. And I was like, it like hit me just like a wall of sound. I was like, wow, this is so loud. But also so cool. And then I was like, okay, focus, like focus
yeah,
on the
yeah, yeah,
lift, like
yeah.
I
go and
think
like make your squat now.
I think like afterwards we just like looked at each other and we were like, what the fuck was that? And like we were just
Yeah.
like walking down to where the holding area was, and we were just like buzzing. We were like, whoa, that was crazy. And like everyone else is like looking at us, being like, oh shit, what's about to happen? And we were just
Yeah,
like literally just
yeah.
like looking at each other like, what the fuck? And it was just like,
Jason,
yeah, I just remember
you yourself,
the
right, as a
bass.
coach, right, as a coach that is has got a superstar now, right, you are going to post a girl, right, and being a Sheffield is, again, because it's the first time it ever happened in powerlifting. We all were there as spectators. What we saw was just fucking unreal. So, how did it made you feel like? to be able to be handling Evie with all of these so-called best coaches in the world? How did it made you feel to go up against them?
It was, I'd say, like nerve-wracking, but once we got started, it's just the same old shit, man. Like, I don't know, like when I'm coaching on the day, it's very easy for me. It's a very natural thing for me. I don't know how to explain it, but it was all just kind of like, once we got going, it's just the same shit as it is at a local meet. You know, like I'm used to coaching multiple people. So honestly, just to have like one person and people loading the weights, like it was very stress-free. And Evie was in like a very, very good mood. Maybe too good of a mood. But like it just made everything very easy. And I was just like happy, man. Like it was just very exciting. It was just kind of soaking up the moment. And we were just enjoying ourselves more than anything. Just the same shit that we always do, really. But obviously you've got champions everywhere. I mean, like we were warming up with like Joy and Carlina. So we were with Dom as well. So that was also a level of familiarity. But I don't know, like as cool as it was to be with like all these world champions and everything, which I was focusing on evenings. I wasn't really super concerned about what they were doing. And also just kind of like watching the men's live stream.
And how in terms of the numbers as well, because Evie is a lifter. Evie just will lift anything you put on the bar. Right? Even if you put a 300 squat, she's just gonna come out for it because it is what it is. That's why lifters. That's why we do it. So in terms of numbers, right? How did you, in terms of, no handling, but how did you go on the bar? Because knowing Evie was going up against Naomi, to be fair, after the squat, after all the girls squatted, you can potentially see Evie was hard to beat in terms of like she finished her squat. Even you look her bench open and deadlift, you're thinking, she'll be hard to beat. How did you handle that pressure in terms of like, because the other coach already could see it, could see, oof, this girl, she has got a lot in her. How did you handle that?
Well, it's a good question because we actually had a fake opener in on the deadlift. We bumped hers up 5. So the actual opener was 185 and we bumped it up to 190. So I knew that the numbers there weren't exactly accurate. So I don't know, like, I guess at that point, like after squats, I mean, throughout really, I knew that she had a chance. My main objective was beat Noemi, and that will put us in the best position possible. So, I mean, to be honest, I don't really crunch the numbers too hard until we've done the second deadlift. Like it's just go 8, like, you know, it's the same plan that I have for everyone, go 8 from 8 and then see what's there on the third, you know, see what you need to do on the third deadlift. So I never really was at a point where I was like, okay, Naomi's done 171.5, we've done 160, you know, I know she benched 90 in training, which I did, but like, you know, I'm not worried about what she's going to do. I'm just worried about making lifts. I mean, bench, we had a very straightforward plan. It was just 2.5 kilo jumps. There was only at one point where I considered changing the number, which was after her second deadlift. Like she did 195 and it was pretty damn good. I put in 202.5 for the world record. And then actually Paul Marsh talked to me and he was like, it's fucking getting in my head. And he was like, just make sure you make the next one. Like that's all you need to do is make the next one. And like I had been deliberating between 200 and 202.5. And I actually looked at the live stream, which is not something that I usually do. Like I'm usually pretty happy with my intuition. But I looked at the live stream and I looked at how 195 moved and I was like, fuck, we can't go under the world record here. Like that's 5,000 pounds. And in hindsight, I think it was the right thing to do. I think we probably would have won with 200, but obviously you want to, you know, put it on the line for that world record, especially if it's there. But to kind of actually answer your question, there was no real point where we were poised or where we were seated. Like it never really dawned on me that like, okay, we need to do this, this, and this to win until we got to like that eighth. After that eighth lift, and then it was like, let's just do what we can here. And to be fair, even then it was just still a case of being like, let's do as much as we can, because Naomi basically put herself in the position, or her coach, to where she wanted to deadlift after us, which is the move that they made based on them jumping us on the openers. So at that point, it was all we can do is get the most out of Evie and hope that that's enough. And luckily it was.
But like it was the same plan throughout. Like we didn't actually.
Yeah. I was ready to adjust the plan.
Yeah, all those numbers were picked like weeks ago. So it was like relatively chill in the fact that like we didn't change anything. There wasn't anything really made on the fly. It was just like, yeah, which I think made it really chill for both of us.
So
you guys
actually.
Yeah, so in essence, you guys rehearsed the win almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. My biggest concern,
without knowing,
my biggest concern was that Evie, she doesn't deadlift heavy in training, which is interesting. And like we've learned more and more as she's gone throughout, as we've worked together and done different competition preps. But the heaviest thing she pulled was 190. And it was good, but like it wasn't like, oh, you've got 202.5 there. But we know from the last two competitions, and probably the one prior to that too, that we don't need to pull anything heavy, which is something that we know. But like in reality, with all the variables at play, with how everything's going, it's still a little bit fucking stressful whether that will actually come to fruition or not. So that was probably my biggest concern. But after she pulled her opener, I was like, sweet, we're on. Actually, to be fair, I can always tell with Evie, like her last warm-up is very indicative of how things are going to go. And all the last warm-ups were going really well. So at that point, I was like, cool, we're fine. I could kind of, like, even after I think we pulled 175 in the warm room, I was like, okay, breathe a sigh of relief, because, you know, 190 to 202 is a pretty decent jump if you haven't kind of done that. But it just seems to be the case, and just something we have to trust now.
So from now on, Joey, I'm not lifting heavier anymore in training because Evie has proven it. So yeah, my probably last deadlift in training will be 270. Let's see if I can lift 350. So who knows? Jason, again, I think this is another one for me. Is now you have a superstar. I'm not saying you don't have superstar in your roster. You do have very talented lifters, which is everyone are working on their own path. But now you have a light, which is Evie now. So since you came back from Sheffield and Evie won, how did it affect your business? Don't lie. Tell the truth. This is a safe environment.
It hasn't a lot, to be honest. My books are full anyway, so I don't really have the capacity to take on anyone else. I coach about like 55 people, so I don't really have the means to take on. I had like a few really random inquiries, which I think would kind of dead leads, but nothing too much has changed, man. Honestly, it's same old shit, you know, back in the gym, kind of like just people not really giving you much credit at all. That's kind of the way it is around here. And then, I mean, to be fair, everyone was very congratulatory, but like, you know, it's about 2 seconds of it and then back to giving you shit. Well, actually, everyone was saying to me, "Oh, you're not going to fucking pay attention to us anymore now that you've got Evie, now that you've got Superstar." So yeah, I mean, like things haven't. Yeah, exactly. Things haven't changed all that much, but I mean, personally, like in my own work, I will say, and I'll be honest, like I feel more confident as a coach to have pulled off something like that. Like, you know, there's always a level of like when you're coaching online, you know, you don't have a boss, right? You're self-employed, you do your own thing. Like I have people who I lean on for help with coaching or to bounce ideas off, but for the most part, you're figuring it out on your own. So to do something that was very planned and direct in the way that was, like I feel a lot more confident in my abilities after doing something like that. And to be honest, I feel as though my clients, even just like the communication that I've had with them over the last couple of weeks, they feel more confident in my capabilities now as well. So I think it's like a net win for my business in that sense.
That's good. So, what about Evie yourself as well? Because now I know I did listen to you on the KOTL podcast in terms of like giving New Zealand that spotlight that you guys roughly deserve. Because at the end of the day, you had a Greg Gibbs that's done so much for powerlifting, and we can't forget that, right? It's someone that potentially got a lot of people into the sport without realizing it. And Gibbs is what happened to Gibbs, we all know. And that shed was almost gone from New Zealand. And now yourself, Carlina, and there is teams, you almost like pretty much like carrying the nation on your shoulders. How does that make you feel now to be the leader of that pack now? You know, when people talk about Greg Gibbs' influence, they can potentially start putting you on the same bracket because of what you're doing on the platform.
I mean, I don't think I have the influence that Brett has yet. Like maybe in a few years, who knows? But I think as high level lifters, you know, like me and Carlina and Tim and all of our other world's athletes, there is kind of like a responsibility that comes with that to, of course, first and foremost, we're representing our nation, but also to kind of grow the sport and to inspire people to get into it and to at the local level kind of bring people into the sport and get them excited about doing powerlifting. And I would love to see, I think like we've already had plans to do some kind of women's training nights, and I'd love if Carlina would come down and we can like, you know, get some new women into the sport, because like that's really growing in New Zealand at the moment. We have heaps of young women and heaps of just young people in general, like sub juniors and juniors, and I'm not sure like where they're finding out about powerlifting. Maybe it's TikTok, I don't know how that works, but
Yep,
I think that might be the one. And I don't know who they're seeing on TikTok either. I'm not even sure if it's New Zealand lifters. I think it might be like American lifters, but yeah, I think we all collectively kind of have a responsibility to take this like great experiences that we're getting, like competing at these events, and feed it back and like give it back to the sport and like and get more people into it and get them going through the ranks. And
I think just to speak on that, I think more than like Evie inspiring the next generation, I think her winning is more satisfying for those that have been around in the last 4 or 5 years and have seen how much hard work like Evie puts into the sport. Like she's the president of our federation, like the Auckland Powerlifting Federation, and you know she's are you still on the NEC? She sits on the National Executive Committee for of NZPF. So I think as much as it is like inspiring for up and coming lifters, it's also very satisfying for those that have seen how much hard work she puts in, not only to her own training, but like to give back to the sport,
to the community. You know what? I gotta ask now, because obviously you've come back home, Evie, and everyone knows like you're coming home with that check, right? And don't worry, I'm not gonna ask you what you're gonna do with the money that you got in, but I just want to know, because we asked Carlina earlier, are you gonna give Jason a cut from that? And I'll tell you if it's a percentage higher or lower than what Carlina's meant to give back to Dom.
He's so embarrassed. He's like,
I will
he's
say,
bright red now.
No, Jason, don't worry, bro.
Jason, that's not your question. Jason, it's not your question. So your question,
look, it's Evie's question right now, bro.
I have considered it, but I'm not sure, like, I'm not sure what the best way to go about it is. Like, maybe I just keep him, like, just keep making sure that I cover his costs to come to competitions and stuff. I think that might be like, you know, I mean, obviously this time around SPD covered it for
Yeah,
basically
so
he covered Jason. So,
yeah.
but there's Worlds soon. Oh,
Bro,
he's
A
so
month of
embarrassed.
triple
He's
cost you,
like,
Jason.
why are
You're
you gonna
lucky.
do this to me?
So you're gonna cover like his flights to
Malta.
Malta, hotel, everything,
Food,
the
clothes.
maybe,
food.
I did
maybe.
the maths already. You know, I did the maths already. Malta
Here's the night
hotel,
before.
flight. We're talking about $5,000.
Yeah,
You know,
five G's.
jeez, damn, Jason, you're a lucky guy. So yeah,
That's
Bro,
basically
why
that's
are you
basically
gonna do
nearly
this to me?
10%. That's basically nearly 10% of your winnings.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just
How does it work
might
in
as well
other
just
sports?
you give them 5 to 15%.
Oh
Hey,
yeah.
what do you mean have a sport you give them 5 to 15%? Do you think tennis Roger Federer pay his coach? He doesn't give a shit. In a way. Not all sports pay their coaches their winning. But in powerlifting, the reason we asked that question, Evie, because there's a lot of fluff going on around, right? Jason, you probably could hear this. If you have got a lifter like yourself, if you handle someone a world, or you have got a lifter that goes and win, and the winnings have to be split between the lifter and the coach, some people are going up to 50%. All I'm saying to people, if Jason is going to be lifting some of the weight for you on the platform, fair enough to share 50%. But if Jason is not stepping on the platform with you to lift that weight, man ain't getting 50%. You'll be lucky if you get 2%.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean?
See, I don't know, man, because without Jason, I'm just saying, without Jason, yeah,
Yeah.
those 30 grand winnings wouldn't have happened. Just saying.
Also, don't forget, Jason did say he was doing the calculations before. He scouted every lifter with every lift they've done, every gym total. The guy did his fucking homework.
Yeah. I mean, he's so
Okay.
passionate. He wouldn't have done that regardless, like just because
Exactly.
just
I
because
would have
like
done
he
that
loves
for
it
anyone.
and like he's obsessed with powerlifting and like all the numbers.
I would have done
but
it even if Evie wasn't lifting.
yeah, I
What?
think
Just because
that
it's
like
interesting.
I agree that like without Jason, I never would have come up with the idea on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I would
So
not have. It would
10%,
not have happened.
10% it is.
So
And the same
10%
with
Can I say my
Kedrick, though,
piece?
right? Like we wouldn't have made it without Kedrick, so I probably owe him some. some money
2%,
too.
real quick.
As long as
Just a
the
few
Kendrick
pints.
and
Yeah, it's few
look,
pints, yeah.
Kendrick get paid for his service, Jason get paid for his service. Evie, this is literally I'm gonna be on your side here, right? Jason get paid for his service, Kendrick get paid for his service. They're not getting shit, right? Just think about get them like Easter eggs or something. That's more than enough, right?
An
Easter
Easter egg.
I think I bought like one round of drinks. I was like, don't worry, guys, I got this.
Ooh, ballin'.
Classic.
I got
It's-
a question. I got a question for you, Evie. I want to bring it back a little bit towards your training, right? So obviously you had to drop a weight class. Was there any point? Did you have any sessions throughout that whole journey where you like just thought to yourself, "Fuck, this is actually really bad. I'm not sure I can do this," or like food wise, calorie intake wise, it was quite low, or I don't know. Did you have any days where you're like, you know what, I can't do this. I'm not going to do it, and then went back to
I can
Jason to
remember
like
one.
regroup?
not
Yeah?
so much not so much because of the weight cut, because by that point, like at least like this year, my training has been like pretty good, but I have been injured and I hurt my back one session, and that was the one where I was like, this could be it, like I might be out. Because I like couldn't bend over, like I was in so much pain. And I was really, really panicked. And the gym was super busy. And I just stood like outside the gym in the like driveway crying, like messaging Jason being like, I think I've put my back out, like I can't bend over, like I'm in so much pain, I can't lift anything. And he was like, just calm down, like just don't like jump to conclusions or anything. And it was a setback, like it did take, like I started going to physio after that, and like it took quite a lot of management, like anti-inflammatories and like physio treatments, and like I basically like couldn't sit down at work, like I just had to be like standing all the time or walking around. Like anytime prolonged sitting or like driving in the car, I would be in pain and I'd have to like massage it and like just everything that I could possibly do to like be somewhat okay for training. And that was the one that I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. Like, if this doesn't come right in time, yeah, that could really set me back. But it was fine. It did come right.
Well,
definitely
Jason,
there was a.
go on, Jason.
Sorry, go on.
No, you want to say something? Don't say go on.
I was gonna say like there was you were affected there for quite a few deadlift sessions. Like it was very awkward off the floor. Like I don't know if you guys ever had that sort of back pain where like just that initial like exertion of force off the floor is like, oh, it's very jarring. And you could definitely see that in the way that Evie was deadlifting. So she was like, it wasn't like an amazing prep, right? It was like it was decent, and things came together well at the end, but it was pretty rocky there. Like she'd been dealing
Someone
with
called
like
me out on that actually.
Who
Like
was that?
Saying what?
Solana, I did a podcast with her the other day. She was like, was that a strategy? Like I saw you were posting on Instagram saying like, you know, that things weren't going that great and that you were in pain and like having a hard time. Like, were you trying to like throw people off by saying that? I was like, no, that was just the truth. Like I was in pain and like it was, yeah, like hard going for a bit there.
But you know what? Now that you mentioned it, how do you feel about people like, I don't know, faking injuries and then coming out to comps anyway and be like, I don't know, actually, I can still win with injuries. So I don't know, you know, there's like a trend. I don't know how it is in New Zealand, but over here there's a trend going on. I'm not gonna name any names, obviously, but they're like saying like, oh,
It's a safe space.
I got a pec strain, and then they're out here trying to bench 210.
Wow,
I don't know. Like, I don't think that happens in New Zealand.
Oh, you
and
Joe,
I didn't
you
think
were
anyone
there.
did that.
Joe, you
He's
went
called
there.
someone out, but I don't
Jesus
know who it is.
Christ.
Oh,
You're
he
talking
was
about
in Sheffield with you actually.
you're talking about our best lift in the country. Come on.
I was talking about Abdul Majid.
Do you think he faked an injury, or do
1
you
million
think,
percent.
like,
How
he
can you say he's got a pec strain and then out here benching 190 the next day?
I don't know though,
Right.
because I feel like when you come to competition, it's just all about how you like manage it in that last, like the taper makes a huge difference if you're like well recovered going in. And I think like the adrenaline of the competition, and I know for me, like I just took like a whole bunch of anti-inflammatories beforehand and was like, I'm not gonna feel nothing. Like if you can manage it well on comp day, you know, like you don't really, sometimes it goes the other way and you're like, no, I'm really sore. And sometimes you're like, nope, all good.
I think when you're like peaking for a competition, you become hypersensitive to any sort of pain, especially with like a competition that has such gravity like Sheffield. So any sort of like discomfort, you know, like it happens all the time when I'm coaching, any sort of discomfort, you give it more attention than perhaps you normally would in a block where you're further up from competition. So, I mean, you can get a small tear or a strain diagnosed very easily, but the way that that actually impacts your lifting, it does often come down to how you perceive that and, you know, your perception of that pain. So I think a lot of the time things can seem worse than they actually are, and then you get to comp day, you get into like that game day mindset, like you said, the adrenaline, maybe a little bit of ibuprofen, that all makes things kind of feel a lot better and end up moving perhaps how they should have been moving had you been able to kind of work through that a little bit more. So I think there's many things at play there, but I do think some people also play up their injuries just to have a little, and I'm not calling out Mo here at all because I don't even know.
Just to have the story,
actually,
like
I think I said this to Evie. Mo, he's got to be like the best dressed dude there the whole week at Sheffield, right?
Yes, and he's like the nicest guy, and his biceps like the size of my head.
Whoa. Okay.
Talking about the injuries we just mentioned there, right? Because in Sheffield, to be fair, because we were watching on a platform, you can see whose was broken and you can see who was not broken, right? And again, respect to all these lifters, so-called best lifters in the world. The reason I'm saying so cold because I have got my opinion in terms of who I call best lifter and what constitute being the best lifter. So these guys go on that platform, and some of them left the platform, and then we're getting all these. This is one I don't like saying this, but my podcast is a safe environment. I can. So I don't like these pages of excuses why I didn't perform well. Right. So my question to you, Jason and Evie, is what's your opinion in these type of lifters where before leading to a championship, they're talking all the shit, they're talking how good they are, how good they feel and all that stuff, and they will be doing really well. They go there, fucked up, and then the next thing you see the next post is a full of excuses. I call them excuses because at the end of the day, we do this powerlifting as a self-funded sport. We have got lives, outside powerlifting, whatever injuries or whatever, that's our business. Right? But when you go and throw these excuses on social media for people to feel sorry because of your performance, how do you guys feel about that?
Do you want to go first, Evie, and then I'll go off you?
I think injuries are all part of it, eh? I think we know once you get to a certain point in powerlifting, particularly several years in, shit hurts. You get deep enough in a peak and you're gonna experience some of that. But at least this is my approach to powerlifting, and part of it is being a New Zealander, we don't make a lot of noise. You don't talk yourself up. Sure, you can say these are my achievements, this is what I've been doing in the gym, I'm feeling quite confident, but I don't think you should ever go into a competition being I'm the best, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna destroy everyone. Stay humble. You never know what's gonna happen on the day. You have no idea what other people are gonna bring. So, and you don't know what's gonna happen to you, and you might end up injured, and that's out of your control. And maybe you would have been the best if you weren't injured, but just stay in your lane. Just stay humble. Don't talk too much shit, because it kind of comes back and bites you in the ass. And then you're stuck making excuses for all the stuff that you said before to be oh, sorry, I didn't perform like I said I was going to perform, but this happened and this happened. And it's because shit happens in powerlifting. Injury is just a reality, and or whatever else could have happened. You could have gotten sick, or maybe your flight was delayed, or the travel was really rough, or there's so many things that could happen. So just consider that maybe before going in.
I think having characters in powerlifting is good, and it's an important part of growing the sport. But when it becomes the same recycled bullshit of I'm gonna win, I'm gonna take everyone, it gets a bit boring realistically. And especially if you're not going to actually back it up. And I think a lot of the people who say that stuff, they're actually pretty good at backing it up. But I think it seems a bit forced. And I met some of the people that say that sort of stuff, and they're not really like that. And I'm
yeah,
why are you acting this certain way? Where, I mean, personally, I value transparency over everything. And I think, that's where it was refreshing to see someone like Leah come into this competition who had been very honest and open that she wasn't going to be at her best. And to be fair, she was pretty close, but to see her, and I actually know from a conversation with someone else that she actually was quite upset about someone saying that perhaps she's kind of making it up. And to see that level of openness and transparency, I think is refreshing. I think the way that Evie approached this competition is exactly how I would like someone to approach this competition. I think that honesty around everything is very valuable, not only just as a spectator, but as for those people looking up to these lifters and coming through in the sport. I think it's getting a real honest depiction of what's going on. Evie saying that she's injured, and people are "Are you faking it?" It's no, man, that's just exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
But then again, you can reflect on that story and they can see that she was injured and things weren't going well. And hey, look, it happened on the day and things did go well. I think that's a better arc that people can learn from, as opposed to just sitting there being like, yo, I'm going to destroy everyone. You know, that's it, you know, burn the ships.
Yeah.
100%. I agree.
You're talking about
But
you
yeah,
said
it's
about
characters. Yeah.
you said about honesty, Jason, right? I'll bring you back. I take my receipt. Time to cash them. So you spoke about honesty, but you knew Evie was dropping to 52. You were not honest about it.
Here
Joey.
it comes.
Joey,
Yo,
when you asked me the night before what weight class Evie was in, what did I tell you?
52s.
Hold
Exactly.
on. The night before,
Anyone who
24
asked me, I
hours.
told them.
So 24 hours before. But
A
while
guy
Sheffield-
used me to defend himself, but he didn't even speak to jurors himself. Okay, cool.
So, but Sheffield was announced like, well, Evie was pretty much like, apart from the world champions that hit the 95%. Evie was the first one in South Africa. People were like, Evie has qualified.
I will say, everyone that asked me what weight class Evie was doing, I told them. But people didn't ask. And we just stayed in our own lane. We did our own thing, kept quiet. Well, I mean, like, to me, it's like, I'm a fucking coach. It's nothing on me to like go out there and announce what she's doing. You know, if she wants to do that, that's up to her. I did suggest to her, like, hey, just to keep the pressure off yourself, like, you know, maybe don't announce it. But I don't think Evie would have lied to anyone had they asked. I mean, bro, she was posting accessory videos where she's looking pretty shredded. I think, you know, that in itself is not necessarily hiding the fact she wasn't training in hoodies and shit.
Yo, I don't know, man, because
I don't know.
like,
We wouldn't say
Evie could just been a shredded 57.
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
We wouldn't say Jess is going to 69, is it? She's
Well,
shredded as
I
fuck.
mean,
but like, she's
I
a lot
think
more
that,
shredded now
like-
than she was.
yeah, a lot more shredded. But I feel like people weren't, they weren't paying attention. But there were a couple of people who did work it out that like we didn't tell. One of them being Tori, who raised it on the King of the Lifts preview show, and she herself being like in those weight classes, she could tell that like that's a lifter who's dropped weight. So I guess like she had that kind of insight, whereas like for me, like I wouldn't know looking at like the 83 men if someone was dropping to 74, because like it's not my weight class. Like I just, you know, like I wouldn't be able to tell. So I don't I don't like blame anyone for that. And I don't blame anyone for not looking closer at me, because yeah, like why would you? Like you don't have a reason to like seek me out and like make sure. But Eric Helms also worked it out, because he was like, look, I'm a bodybuilding coach, like I know when someone's shredded.
And he asked me and I told him.
low key
So
though, I wouldn't be like zooming into like Evie like
That's a
accessories.
bit
like-
weird, bro. I'll be like, Joey, what are you doing?
Yeah, like, I don't think my missus would rate that. Like, she'd be like, "What are you doing?"
So, Evie, as a woman, I mean, from the experience I have, for the little experience I have in life, I know when it comes to body weight is almost a sensitive conversation to have. And then I'm sure probably, Jason, this was very hard for you in terms of as a man to go in the Evie and say, look, you need to drop weight class, because you don't know where her insecurities are. You don't know where she's comfortable, or just to throw that the idea is not easy. So as yourself, Evie, how did it make you feel knowing, okay, you were 52, you went back to 57, you look at yourself in the mirror, you look confident, you know, you got a little bit of curves left and right and center, and then now, you know, I'm dropping all of that to go to be a skinny plank again. So how did it make you feel?
A skinny plank.
I mean, yeah, so there's a few parts to it. Like when Jason suggested it, I knew that it was purely from like a competitive point of view. And I wasn't for the idea really, because like I really like eating food. So I was not super thrilled. And also like it kind of goes against like my whole point of powerlifting. Like you should be getting stronger, right? Like
Mhm.
get bigger, get stronger, like more kilos on the total, not like drop a weight class and like lose kilos off your total. Even
Mhm.
though like it's a PB total for that weight class, like those are numbers I've done before.
Mhm.
And then yeah, like you say, like it was a weird one in terms of like my relationship with my body, because dropping the weight, becoming leaner, becoming very vascular, I was like, yeah, I don't really like the way that I look. And people were like complimenting me in the gym, being like, wow, like you look so jacked, like you're so lean. And I was like, yeah, but I don't really like it. Like I don't really like the way that it looks. But it was just like part of the process, I guess. And like long term for me, I'm definitely more comfortable with the way that I look at like as a 57 than as a 52. Like I'm too tall for this weight class, but you know,
How many
it
more
Was he
paid
years?
off.
walking? Was he walking at 57 at that point? Or
When
She was 55, bro.
no. Oh, he was 55. So he was never actually 57.
no, I was over 57. Like
What were you when we
early
started working
last
together? Like
year.
60?
Yeah, I hit like 62 kilos, like maybe like December, January. Yeah, December 2021, January 2022. I was like 62 kilos and then like lost like 10 kilos over the course of that year.
Damn.
Wow. So how long the plan is for you to say 52? Because again, you want to be a world champion, and the way things are going, Jason is saying he's transparent now. We can ask, so potentially push the world record in Malta and win the world championship, right? So, two questions. But how much are we thinking about pushing the world record? Because remember, every time you push world record, you make it hard for yourself in Sheffield. You already have a ticket. So that's number one. And number two, my second question is, how long would you stay as a 52? Because as you said, you were more comfortable and you like your body as a 57. So how long are we going to watch Evie continue as a 52? Because now, as Jason said, you are the superstar in that weight class. You know, no shade on Naomi, but that weight class needed a superstar, and you came in, you proved it. So how long are we going to keep on seeing these superstar here?
I'll let you go first, Jason. How much on the total?
Well, I think as we did with this whole prep, just take it as it comes. And the next thing is Worlds. And then after that, we'll have a conversation. I've honestly very briefly thought about it, but our focus is on Malta more than anything. And even more acutely than that, it's like, how did the last week go? So we're just, we're working with Kedrick to get in a good spot to get to be able to make weight at Malta and maybe push that cut a little bit more. That's something we talked about. Because Evie actually didn't cut a whole lot of weight. She was about early 53s. But outside of that, it really comes down to how all that goes. And then we'll make an assessment after that, how she's feeling after she's gone on a bit of a holiday with her partner.
Mhm.
So we'll assess it then. And until then, we don't really need to think about it because we just need to focus on what's ahead of us. And like, what's the next thing we need to do. But I do see that Joy's nominated as a 63, so there's a spot there at 57 available maybe in the future.
Yeah. You know what though? I was just thinking now, Jason. Obviously,
I had two questions, Joey. My question hasn't been answered yet. Evie, another answer my question yet.
Oh, has she not?
Sorry.
What was the other one?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just about how
About
long
the-
to stay 52s. Probably, I mean, yeah, like again, like one
know.
competition at a time, like see how worlds go, see how comfortable it is for me to like stay at this weight. Like if it starts to become too rough, then like nah, not interested in like ruining my whole quality of life to like stay at a weight class.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely the plan is to move back up to 57s, but like the timeline for that, not really sure at the moment. Depends how everything goes.
Just
because
keep the
Jason
checks coming.
Because Jason scared me that when he said push the cut, I'm thinking maybe next year is 47 at Sheffield. Because you never know.
I tell you what, bro, everyone's going to be like, after what we did, everyone's going to be thinking about what class they should be in this next year. It's going to be quite funny.
Well,
Go on, Joey.
Jason, I was gonna say though, right? Because I know you're pretty much saying, one comp at a time. Evie's saying that too. Obviously, Evie's doing Malta as a 52. In a way, yeah, she could really shit on someone's dinner for Sheffield next year if she bags like a whole new world record total at Malta, and then she just dips, does 57 at Sheffield, and whoever's at 52 is fucked, trying to like beat whatever Evie put up in Malta. Like potentially, that's what you could do, bro. Evie, you know what I'm saying?
That would be funny though. That would be
That would be like the
Well,
ultimate troll. Ultimate
it's a
troll,
possibility, right?
Yeah, I
It's a
mean, why
possibility,
not?
just like anything is. But then again, you're up against Jad, or probably even more
Well,
concerningly, Natalie Richards.
Evie's already won it once. Evie's already won it once.
Yeah.
Like, she could come back to Sheffield going, I see you lot doing what I can do, bitches. Like,
I tell you what we will do is keep all our options open.
okay. Are we gonna have drinks the night before again so I can get more?
Fuck yeah, bro.
Yeah.
And now
cool.
Yeah.
Now you know that he's like honesty, transparency over everything. You're gonna come with your list of questions and be like, all right, this is what I want to know.
No, but it comes after a certain amount of drinks though. Like, it doesn't just happen after the first one. So I need to
Oh, you should
find
see
that.
me after a few more.
Yeah, no.
That's when the lies
So-
come out.
Since Jason said that, Evie, after Malta, everyone will be like this on Instagram, thinking, is she bulking up? No, where's the shred? Is she shredding? So if you know you're not, people feel like she's going 57.
Yeah, I mean that's what Jason said. Like as soon as right after Sheffield, he was like, "You're never gonna fly under the radar ever again." Like we've
100%.
lost that cloak of
no way.
invisibility.
You are, again, as I said in the beginning, you are the poster girl of IPF. How can you fly under the radar? It would never gonna happen again. So it means, I know Jason when he said you guys are transparent. Now you have to be even more transparent because there's no way to hide. So
Yeah,
which
there's
is
no hiding.
which is a good sport, isn't it?
Yeah,
Which is a good
I think it's
sport
supposed to be.
to be in. And in Malta, you will be going for best lifter. And Jason, I know, be transparent. This is transparency here in this podcast. It's not that's not the target here.
The target is to do as good as we can.
And be best lifter. So I
I told-
decided that.
Durance, I'm telling
And
you,
if
bro.
that happens,
Jason has not drunk anything, so he ain't telling us anything.
Do you know what I'm doing? Jason, what date are you arriving in Malta?
we get there on the 10th, so the Saturday. Evie lives on the 11th, but we're in Rome for like 4 days before him. So we get there on Tuesday, so we're there, like 5 or 6 days before.
Okay,
Evie lives.
I'm gonna bring my bottle of spirit. I'm there on the 10th. So Jason, me and you, we'll get a cuppa.
Let's go, brother.
Good man.
You're gonna get
good
a lot
man.
of people buying you drinks, Jason.
Hey,
I
I'm
mean,
all for
This has
that.
worked out well for you.
Especially after they hear this podcast, they'll be like, okay, so that's the way to get Jason to tell the truth.
You see, like all the so called, I can't even say the name, coaches, they will be like, Jason, do you want to drink? How's the plan tomorrow?
I will just double back on kind of like your line of questioning there, though, because what you're saying is like, look, be looking at best lifter, and I think the mentality that helped us so much in this prep was that we weren't really paying attention to what other people were doing, and I think the novelty of the concept of Sheffield, which is percentage of the world record total, it's very hard to know what people were going to do. And I think that played in our favor. I think there was two things that played in our favor. Number one was that we didn't really know what other people were going to do. So we were just very focused on what we could do and just doing the best we could do. And number two was that actually we were lifting early in all the flights. And I think that in this format is a big advantage because it's very overwhelming to have to look at what's going on that score sheet when you're technically looking at 12 other people. And I think that the fact that we were out early helped a lot. And it was really, it's like if you're not the bigger deadlifter, you just do what you can do and you build the biggest total. And that was what we were focused on the whole time. And I understand like there is there's a push for powerlifting to like scout other lifters and everything. And I think it's important to know, like what I look at when I'm doing that is know what it looks like when they're close to their limit. So for example, getting sidetracked here a little bit, but I'll continue. Like with Noemi, I knew after that 195, like I've seen her pull a lot in the past. Like I've been watching and following her lifting for years, just more so out of as a fan than anything. But I knew that as soon as she starts to struggle a little bit off the floor, there's not much after that. So apart from like knowing like where they struggle in a lift and gauging just how much each lifter has after a certain lift, I'm not super interested in crunching numbers, because the last thing I want to do is start choosing numbers for Evie that are dictated by what someone else has done in the past. So I, to kind of double it back to your question about best lifter, it's like, we'll do as good as we can. We've got to beat Noemi first, and that's not going to be an easy task. She seems very fired up about it. So if something like that, if we're in the top few lifters after that, then that's great. But, we have our initial task, which is doing as good as we can in training. And then, once we get to game day, it's about worrying about what we can do on the day. And realistically, again, it's making 8 attempts. And then in the last deadlift, that's when we worry about what everyone else is doing and what we need to do based off what they're doing.
With Naomi, you mentioned that she's French, right? If you guys have read any French history book, you'll remember French people don't forget shit, right? They don't forget shit. They would die with that. That beat you beat Naomi in Sheffield. I kid you not. Naomi would die with that. That anger would never gonna go away. Even if she beat you at World, it's still not gonna resolve the problem until she beat you at Sheffield. Because this is because the way I'm talking, because I got a lot of friends in me around me, and I know how these things work. Look at Panna, right? He wanted a redemption the whole year last year. The same thing. Even what Leah did at the Arnold here in the UK is because of the anger of what happened in South Africa, how missing way, and she just went to the Arnold and just smashed it. She didn't need to do what she did at the Arnold. So this is the French mentality, and that's not going to go away. Which is like, again, yourself, Evie, now you are a challenge, not a challenge, but now people are chasing you. You're not chasing anymore. How does that make you feel to be chased, not to be the chaser? Because pretty much this answer you give us, it will probably help a lot of us in this podcast and give us hope. So how does it feel to be the one that people are chasing?
It's daunting, I think. For me, I maybe don't have a mindset that a lot of other lifters have. Like, I do get quite anxious and like intimidated by other people. So the strategy that worked best for me, into Sheffield, but also the competitions prior, was just not worrying about what anyone else is doing. I don't follow anybody else. Not because I don't want to, but just comparing myself to other lifters is not good for me. It doesn't fire me up. It does the opposite. So I just have to really like focus on what I can do, on making the most out of every session, out of my nutrition, out of my recovery, just like ticking all of the boxes that I can. And that's going to be harder going into Worlds, knowing that there are people watching me now. There is some pressure to perform to a certain standard. Going into Sheffield, there's no pressure on me. No one expected anything. Like, it was easy to walk in on the day and be like, I'm just going to have a great time. This is like the new challenge now, but I'm ready for that. And I'm looking at maybe working with a sports psychologist to help me like really get my mindset on point, so that like I'm not going in nervous and anxious and intimidated.
So the sports psychologist you're looking to, not for you to be able to talk your shit, right? Because apparently women don't talk their shit like men do. So women need to start talking their shit too. So you being the lead of the pack, being the superstar of IPF, you need to talk your shit, lady. That's your job.
Yeah, I mean, I think like it's kind of like maybe something that's like underutilized or like I guess it can get expensive in powerlifting. Like once you've got a coach, once you've got a like nutrition coach, once you're paying for like going to competitions and stuff, to then be like, yeah, I'm gonna pay someone to come on and help me with my like mental game. But I think for me, like over the past few competitions, that has been the biggest game changer. Like there's only so much we can do in terms of training and like the physical side of things, in terms of, you know, I think once we got those things in check, it was like, it really comes down to my execution on the day. And my execution on the day is like largely down to
The mental
my
game.
mentality, my
Yeah.
mental game. Like if I can't manage myself, like no matter how many times I've lifted that weight, or like, you know, how capable I am physically of lifting what's on the bar, if my head's not there, I'm gonna screw it up. And like that's what happened for me at Worlds last year. I just
Yeah.
was so nervous. I like caked it on my seconds and then got them on my thirds.
Well, thank fuck there's these money meets now, innit? So you can afford a little bit more than a nutrition and coach and
That-
just a coach.
That has been probably the one difference that you've made, Evie, is just the way that I think like, you know, being able to have that mentality going into game day also bleeds over into training. But I think like, you know, anyone who's been involved in New Zealand powerlifting long enough knows that Evie's had the potential for something like this for a very long time. And when we first started working together, we probably kind of made a mild error, to be honest, not doing any, like the first comp that we did working together was Worlds last year. And like Evie said, she had some kind of mental battles going into that one, just with the way that she performed. And I actually remember calling, she's heard the story fucking 20 times, so she's going to be sick of it. But I do remember calling her after and being like, why, like she, like, and you can see in the way that she was acting on the day, she was almost expressing that anxiousness through like trying to hype herself up and getting herself in the zone. And I called her up and I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, why were you like going so aggressive and like slapping yourself around? And like, I've known like Evie's competed in Auckland powerlifting for years, so I know how she acts, and I know like her personally, so I know personality. And I was just like, what was that all about? And I think at the time you were like, oh, that's what I do. And I was like, yeah, but like, do you think you need to be doing that? And you were like, oh, yeah, I think, I think it helps. I actually think that's what you said. I think it helps. And I was like, how about next time you just focus on like being present, being, I think I said, grab the bar, feel the bar. And I picked this up from someone else, which I would do with everything, and just focus on those sensations and focusing on like just being in the moment, as opposed to like trying to ramp up that intensity through hype or whatever it is you want to call it. And honestly, I think that just changed things like overnight. And I think we did nationals 6-7 weeks after, and the person that she was, I mean, I wasn't out back with her at Worlds, but the person she was at nationals that year was completely different, and it just worked out so well. And then since then she hasn't missed a lift, which I think was massive in success going into Sheffield. But I think there is this push for this, especially with newer lifters, like they really want to like hype themselves up, and that's fine, it works for some people. But like if you're an anxious person and you are already like inside like feeling like you're gonna fucking die, I don't think you need to amplify that by like hyping yourself up. And in this case, it was really just getting Evie to calm herself, and just like not even getting her to, but being like, hey, maybe this instead. And I think it just made a world of difference. And there's many factors that go into it, but I think in terms of like her mentality, that side of things, game day wise, has leveled up massively. Like she, even in the warm-up room, you could probably ask any of those spotters and notice she looked like the most relaxed person there. And she was having the fucking time of her life, not like sitting there with the headphones on, visualizing or anything. And I can't help but think like, fuck, I think this is the way people should be doing it a little bit more. Like, enjoy yourself,
Mm,
focus on getting yourself in the moment and doing the thing that you know you need to do, right? Like, I'm not putting the weight on the bar if you can't do it. So why are you trying to
Mm.
tap into something that you feel as though you need? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I mean, it's changed my experience of the day as well, like so much. Like I went from just having some comps where I was like, why am I doing this? Like I'm having an awful time. Like I'm so nervous. I'm so anxious. Like it just really like stressing me out. And then like the past 3 comps, I mean, Sheffield was probably obviously like went really well, but in terms of my like backstage experience of it, was the most fun I've ever had at a competition. Like I was just enjoying it, like soaking up every moment, just like chatting with Jason out back, just having fun with it like that. And like the only other person who was kind of like on a similar buzz was Joy. Like she also just
yeah.
like has fun with it, like, you know, like doesn't get like super serious, like and I, yeah, so I was like, oh, it's cool, like like we're sort of on a similar vibe. I just think it works way better for me. Like I can't speak for everyone, but I do think it's sort of like perhaps underutilized, and like people are not very aware that like there's this other way of being. Like you don't have to
Mm,
be that like
hyped.
super hype lifter.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that stems from like I know this has nothing to do with like how Sheffield is, but it stems from the whole, I guess, stereotype of how powerlifting is. Like everyone has to be sort of like hyped and people buy into it. Cause like Durance has never been a hype lifter at all. Like he never comes out like guns blazing. I mean, he does that little like pose setup before a deadlift, but that's about it really.
Like
Um,
he's talking
You
about.
you didn't need to mention that. But anyway, I've never been a hype lifter. The thing is, like with me, I feel literally, I always feel like if I'm hyped, I'm losing energy. And I don't need to
Yeah.
lose that energy. I need to condense my energy and lay it out on the weight I'm lifting. I've always been like that. And then sometimes people would tell me, people ask me, say, oh, you walk to the bar like you're about to do nothing. I was like, yeah. So I'm in the zone when I get under the bar because again, this conversation, Evie, I had this conversation with some of the lifters at the world, right? Even the people I was lifting against, you see them, they don't want to talk to you, they don't want to look at you, they don't want to even like stare at you. It's like almost like they want to beat you up. And that was me, that scares me because I'm thinking probably if you put me in the ring, I'll kill you. But at that point, I'm just thinking like, what the fuck are you doing? And then they're calling that lifting. That's not having fun, is it? That's not
Yeah,
having
I do
fun.
wonder about that. Like there were some people that were so nervous, and I was like, it really surprised me because I was like, wow, like really experienced high level lifters. But they're like so nervous, and like I
mm,
guess maybe like battling a little bit, like to manage those nerves. And then yeah, like I don't really look like they're having that much fun. But I know for me that like the the hype was like a distraction from my anxiety. So
mhm.
instead of like helping me with it, it was like trying to distract myself, but it wasn't working. So I just like wasn't doing the movement very well. Like
Mm.
once I got in there to do my lift, and like just trying to calm myself down, take some deep breaths, let my body do what it knows how to do worked way better.
You know,
Yeah.
Evie, I'm so glad you mentioned about like seeing high level lifters. And just a general question about Sheffield. Was there anyone that you sort of met for the first time and was like, oh shit, this is not how I expected him to be? Or like, oh shit, you're not how I expected you to be.
Um, that's like I hadn't really met Jard properly before.
Hmm.
And she was like so sweet, so kind. And like I don't know, like I guess like the French team sometimes like I feel a bit intimidated by them. So I maybe had like built up this perception in my head that like she was, I don't know, somehow different, but she's like very sweet, lovely girl, and so young.
Hmm.
And actually like they were all like that, but there wasn't like a whole lot of talking
At the back.
beforehand. Like yeah, no talking out back really. Like
Hmm.
nobody wanted to chat to me. I was trying, but everyone was very focused. The only person who chat to me was like Jason or like the other lifters' coaches, because like I don't listen to music or
spotters and
anything,
loaders
so I'm
too.
just there. Spotters and loaders, yeah, like had good chats with them. But the other lifters were like super focused. They did not want to chat.
What about you, Jason? Was there anyone
Yeah.
you met in and about Sheffield and you just thought, oh yeah, they seem pretty cool?
Oh, bro, everyone was cool, eh? Honestly. Like the brief, like I was saying before, the brief conversations that I had with Taylor, like he was good value. Jess Bittner was good fun. She was good fun out on the piss the night after. So that was surprising. I thought Agatha was super nice. She was cool. Emil Krastev, like we spent a lot of time with him because
Yes, yeah,
close with Kedrick, him and his partner Asia.
Yeah.
They were super fun and like real humble. Everyone, like, you know what it's like, bro, powerlifting. Everyone's like super nice. There was no one that was like real cagey. Actually, we stayed up till like 7 a.m. drinking fucking Chardonnay with some of the younger flex boys after the win. Like that was real cool. Like Kedrick and I, and like we were in like the hotel lobby and like people were coming in and checking out. And we're like, oh fuck, we should probably go to bed, eh? So like, you know, just things like that. Like everyone was real good fun, and I didn't run into like really anyone that I thought you're a bit of a wanker. Like everyone was real nice.
Really, even
yeah.
Joey?
It's that funny thing, eh? Like,
Oh no, this guy trying to get me pissed the night before.
the
I wasn't
personalities.
trying to.
Nah,
Personalities you see on
was...
Instagram versus like actually in person, like, yeah, quite different. In person, everyone was like, it was cool, it was fun. Like no one was like, you know, trying to start a fight or whatever.
Either what's because now you went from 4,000 followers to almost 10,000, right? By the way, I was part of the 4,000. By the way, I did not just get part of the 10,000. No, right?
Yeah, so was I still. So was I. I've been
anyway,
following since day.
My question to you is, have you received some weighed messages across since you won Sheffield? Because some people, yeah, weird messages. Some people receive messages thinking, because yesterday I was walking the story, there was this debate going on about Jesus. There's these trawlers saying that I believe what he taught, I still don't believe that he's clean, right? Have you been getting things like that?
No, for some reason, no one ever thinks that I'm not natty, which is like kind of offensive. Like that, like I'm the only one that like that people don't think are on drugs. Like no one's worried about me. No one's like, oh yeah, she must be on steroids because she's so strong.
Yeah, but now that you look extra jacked,
they will start coming.
Yeah.
Maybe hasn't yet. I got one message asking me how tall I was, which I guess is like valid. And also I googled myself yesterday, as you do, and the search results are like Evie, like how tall is Evie Corrigan? What height is Evie Corrigan?
That was the like most popular search?
That's
like
mad.
after like Evie Corrigan Sheffield, and then it gives you like other options. Like how tall, yeah. I'm 160 centimeters, like for anyone wondering.
What's that in
how
feet?
tall is that in inches?
In feet?
Yeah, 5 foot, sorry. No
that
inches.
Is 160 what?
160 flat.
160 flat. That's what? Oh my god, that's like 5'1", isn't it?
No, Carlina's 5'1".
No.
Nah.
I am taller than Carlina.
Yeah.
Oh, so that makes you 5'3" then. Yeah. Because you can't be taller than me. I saw you in Sheffield. You're not taller than me. I know I'm sure, but come on.
Is she Joey?
She's taller than
I'm
Joey.
5'7".
She's taller than me.
Yeah, bro. Have you seen the photo of them on the Sheffield steps? And like
it's
legit,
5.24.
Oh,
bro, so almost 5'3".
Oh,
bro, you should have seen them all on the Sheffield steps, and then like Evie's taller than like Carlina, Chandler Babb, all the French chicks, And I like legit at that point, I was like,
Wait,
fuck.
Evie's taller
Did we
than
make the
Leah?
wrong decision here? No, sorry,
I think
not Leah, but like
I'm not sure if
Tiff
I'm taller
and
than Leah.
Jad.
I'm like a whole head taller than Noemi, but I'm sure no one's surprised by that. I think, yeah, maybe like Leah and Jess are like the only ones that are taller.
And Bonica.
And Bonica.
And Bonica and Amanda.
Oh.
Amanda's pretty short.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Someone should make like a chart, like all the Sheffield women's
I mean,
like, heights.
I mean, if people are googling your height now, you know, might as
May as
well.
well get it out there.
Yeah. Like
Jason, thanks, guys. I know we've been talking for a while, but I'll track back to Evie's training leading to Sheffield, because this is a question probably a lot of people want to know. How did you go on about adjusting if Evie training, knowing she's cutting weight to 52s? Did you keep the same momentum as you prep for World, or you had to adjust a lot of things?
That's a good question. So there's a few things. Post Worlds, we made some adjustments. We were more like I said, Worlds was our first competition working together. And one of the conversations that we had, you know, alongside talking about her mentality on game day was like, I think we can train harder. So we pushed going into nationals, and we pushed a fairly hard training block. Whilst you weren't dieting at that time, were you? No. So we did a few things. We pushed hard going to nationals, and we had good success, but we were like pushing that boundary of like, okay, are we, you know, we're she's in quite a lot of pain, and you know, it's not exactly enjoyable, albeit, you know, we had a good result on the day. She had a PB in the total. And then post nationals, and this is in, just to give people a timeline, I think nationals is in August, so we're talking August to December. That was when we made the conscious effort to diet down going into Sheffield. And at that point, the intention behind that was just to lose a little bit of weight so that we can like basically bulk hard going into Sheffield. And then throughout that phase, leading into Commonwealth, we pushed again pretty hard, but we made adjustments along the way to make things a little bit easier. And there's a few reasons behind that. So like my thought process was, okay, what we did leading into nationals worked really well. Yes, we were pushing the boundaries pretty hard. So let's try and run something pretty similar. I think, you know, the initial block would have been a bit of a variation block or whatever. But after that, it was like, okay, let's try and run something similar and see how we go. And it didn't work out as well going into Commonwealth. And there's probably a couple of reasons why. Number one, because she was dieting. And as she said on previous podcasts, this part of the diet was the hardest part, getting from like, you know, 58-ish down to 55. But also probably the biggest confounding variable was that she was basically organizing Commonwealth and running everything and meet directing that, which was, you know, a competition with like 700 people lifting or whatever it was, multi-platform week-long competition. So we made some adjustments throughout that prep. I think we pulled out a third squat day and just generally made things a little bit easier and kind of just played it as it comes, which, you know, is something that I keep coming back to, but that's what I do, you know, give you some training and then we'll adjust it as we go. So after that, it was like, okay, that was obviously when we made the decision to go and do Sheffield at 52. And at that point, I was like, okay, that really hard push that we were doing, we probably can't do that again. So we need to find something in the middle. So I pulled it back a little bit. I think, well, actually what happened was we took, and this is the thing that I don't think you've mentioned before in any podcast or none that I've heard of, Evie, is we actually did like, was it a month or like 5 weeks of just like front squats and like conventional deadlifts throughout like the Christmas break, because she was fucking beat up and kind of over it a little bit post Commonwealth. So she was only doing the competition lifts for like, I think it's 9 weeks leading into Sheffield. So we had a very, very short prep there, which I think helped, but also it gave us a rocky start. So just to kind of answer your question there, like there was a good chunk of training leading into Sheffield that was pretty much rehab based, like tempo stuff, front squats, things that weren't symptomatic. And then when we started that prep for Sheffield, I did what worked well leading into nationals, but we dialed it back a little bit. Like we used to have a 3-lift day that was pretty much all singles. And then I kind of pulled that back to being like one single and more rep work. But I think generally like the way that I program works well for someone in this situation because I'm not like super aggressive generally. So I think it works out okay because, you know, you can only push so hard when you're dieting down as well. Plus, as she's alluded to, diet wasn't that hard. You know, she was eating
And it was
a decent amount of food.
By that point, yeah. And it's all RPE based anyway. So being able to like adjust based on the feel. And there were some sessions there where it was like just like a random like blip, like a drop in training load, and then like by the next session be all right. But I mean, still not, yeah, we didn't even do that heavy leading into Sheffield. Like you were saying before, like 190 was the heaviest deadlift I did. I squatted 155 like once, I think. And then squatted 160 in comp. But I was like, yeah, I feel like I could do 160. And I think I benched 97.5 like maybe once or twice, but like more consistently like 95, 92.
There was a point where, and Kendrick and I actually both spoke about this, where I think you were about 10 weeks out and maybe you had 9 or 8 weeks of training. And like at that point, I was like, okay, fuck, we really need to get back into like some proper training. And you got stuck in the Coromandel. So like a place in New Zealand, like her and her partner went for a holiday and they got stuck because we've had really shit weather here throughout summer. And I think both Kendrick and I were like, she really needs to get back into training now because like we were like 8 weeks out at this point and hadn't really done any sort of SPD work. So there was like this mild panic of like, oh shit, have we left this too late? And like it was almost going to be like another few days of not training. And I was like, oh shit, we really need to actually get our shit together here. But you know, at the end of the day, 8 weeks is actually longer than you feel as though longer than it looks on paper. And there was plenty of time. So it turned out okay at the end, but I feel as though, you know, as good as she did, we probably could have done a little bit better with like a little bit more time, but it was what we needed to do based off of the information that we were presented.
I mean, this is incredible, right? This is the story where when people goes around and throw these words saying I'm the hardest worker in the room and all of that crap going on around, this is what you call hard working is all about, you know, because even down to the weather was against you guys, you know what I mean? And coming to the injury, and then plus the Commonwealth, by the way, congratulations on the Commonwealth, literally, Evie. Every single person I've spoken to that went to the Commonwealth, they spoke highly about you, what you've done. The job, again, this is the thing I said, even on the Carlina podcast, a lot of people are unsung heroes. You know, people don't see what people do on the background. So the job you did at the Commonwealth has not gone unnoticed. Every single nation that was at the Commonwealth, they've seen what you did. Congratulations on that one. So yeah, I mean, the story, Jason, you guys told here, this is what you call being the hardest worker in the room, because the weather was against you guys. You probably thought you left this too late. She was injured and she had to cut weight. I mean, if this is not hard work, I don't know what else it is. And then again, this go back to what you said. You as a coach, I'm sure, I mean, your words, the way you said earlier, the confidence has built up. Because if you can pull this on out, you can pretty much do anything. And Evie, going to Malta, probably that's the mindset, right? If you can do this, beating Naomi in Malta won't be hard. The easiest bit will be you getting to Malta. Go on.
Yeah, like after Commonwealth, I was kind of like, man, like if I can, you know, be like as stressed as I was going into that, and my training was kind of like as non-optimal as my training was going into Commonwealth, and like sitting my ref exam that week and like coaching and like all that, like and dieting, and then like competing and going 9 for 9 and still having a good day at Commonwealth. So I was like, I feel like after that, like, you know, I think doing a comp where doing a comp where I don't have to do anything else other than lift, yeah, that's pretty chill. So Like
That's
that kind of
nuts.
changed my perspective a little bit.
That was
I
like a
think
lot on
that's
your
why.
plate.
Sorry, you on, bro.
Oh no, I was just saying that was a lot on Evie's plate during Commonwealth. Like, wow. But yeah, sorry,
I think
Jason, what
that
were you saying?
actually worked to our advantage just because relative to the last comp that you did, it was so chill.
Mm.
And like, you're just so used to throwing yourself so far in the deep end that you've got this competition where it's like, okay, these guys are going to load our weights. We literally just have to like have fun and just, do what we need to do, as opposed to having to worry about like, Evie's like still competing at Commonwealth, but she's still thinking about like, oh, like how are we tracking for time? Are all our refs here? Do we have enough spotters and loaders? Like, when you come from that environment and you put yourself so far in the deep end, and then you're in a luxury like Sheffield, it's like, oh, this is great. And I can feel what she's saying to an extent as well. Like a lot of the times here, I'll be coaching like 5-6 people in a flight, and then just to have the one, it's like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. So it's like you're just enjoying it because it's so chill. And I think there's value in putting yourself in such a hard position that when you find yourself in a position that is more relaxed, it's like you appreciate it more, and you can just perform better because there's less stresses around it.
Oh, same again for Worlds then in Malta.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Anyway, guys, on that note, I think my last question to you, Evie, would be, I know SPD did these few seconds videos where you guys had to talk your shit, right? Some people had to say what they had to say. Remember, this is a better environment. This is a safe environment. This is no place like SPD. This is a place where you're loved and you're cared about, right? So Martin's coming. What are we expecting from you? Don't listen to Jason. Don't look at Jason. Right? I know Jason's thinking, are we just gonna do our best? What's there? No, fuck it. Martin's coming. What are we expecting from Evie?
This is going to be the promo clip. Let's go.
I'm so sorry. I'm so bad at the sound bites kind of thing and like the hype chat. It's the same answer. Like I will do the absolute best that I can on the day. I'd love to bench 100. I think like that was like, yeah, that's like kind of my only goal. It's like bench 100, but yeah, just bring my best.
Just like someone we know in 66.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah. So Evie, I got one last question for you as well, actually. What would you say is the biggest positive from the Sheffield experience for you? Like biggest positive out of everything. You can say it's the money if you want to, and like I would not blame you for that.
I honestly think just like literally the experience, like just being there and like the days beforehand and afterwards, and the comp itself, like that will be forever in my memory. Probably like the best competition I've ever had, like the most fun I've ever had, the best experience. Like I don't know. I mean, I guess yeah, there's next year now, but at the time I was like, this might be the only time I get to do this, and like I'm just going to enjoy every moment, and I really did. And like I don't think anything will top that. Like that's probably like the the best part of my whole journey as a powerlifter. Like that was the peak for me. Not even just like what came out of the performance, just like the whole day, the whole experience of it was unreal.
Well, up until Ben Banks announced that the winners get invited back next year on the stipulation that
Yeah.
they have to do Worlds.
And then I cried because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I get to do it again. Like that's like like how is this my life? Who is this person who gets to like go to these comps?
Yeah, that
It's insane.
banquet was pretty much. Would you say that banquet was definitely better than a usual Worlds banquet?
Yeah, the nicest banquet I've ever been to. I mean, again, like all the parts of it made us feel like superstars. Like going to that banquet in like this crazy like mansion palace situation, and like the food was lovely, and like it was just little name cards and like just like so many details that made us feel so special.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, Jason, I got one question for you. Is there a specific type of beard you might want Durance to bring you for Worlds? He just wants
Bro,
to
I
know.
like those
Yeah, go.
those Belgian beers.
Oh, the left?
Yeah, that was good, bro. I had a
Yeah.
few of those after.
Yeah, they were good, right?
that night.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Durance, you know the one he's talking about, right?
Yeah. I'm not a skin guy, so I'm not too skin. So don't worry, I'll get some.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
bro. Hey,
I know
they'll be more than
I don't
welcome.
have I don't have Evie type of checks, but I'm not too skin, so we'll be fine.
Well, Kedrick and I will have to force Kedrick into one as well.
Yeah, I reckon I might like it. But yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
think-
that's it for questions from me. Durance, Espen?
No, honestly,
I think
we've
we've covered
everything.
everything, guys.
Maybe
just let's-
maybe one last question actually, because Evie was being a bit too nice. So my question is going to be for Jason. So Jason, obviously you guys have done a fucking great job, right? With everything you've done. Oh, wait 1 second, someone's calling me. How rude. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you guys have done a great job with everything you've done at Sheffield's, dropping a weight class, still fucking hitting some disgusting numbers, taking 30K back home. My question for you, Jason, is come Malta. It's a simple yes or no question. You know, in this podcast, we just zero filter, no beating around the bush, none of that shit. Is Evie gonna win at Worlds? Yes or no?
Yes.
Hey.
And we'll leave it there, guys. Honestly,
Yeah,
thank you guys for coming on though. That was
yeah,
amazing, guys.
I hope you
Thank you so
I hope
much.
you enjoyed just jumping on the podcast and just talking whatever, man. Yeah.
I love it, bro.
We're
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing what you do at Worlds, Evie, as well. Kill it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All
Well, I
the
hope
Thank
you
you. Thanks for having us on.
I hope you enjoyed the rest of your Easter Monday. And yeah, we'll speak on whatever medium, whenever. Well,
Hell
And-
See
yeah,
you
bro.
in
Jason-
Malta.
Jason, enjoy that 10%, man. We got you.
And Evie, see you guys in Malta, and therefore I'll be there on the 10th, and I will look out for you guys. I'll probably be there before you guys, but I'll look out.
yeah.
Looking forward to watching you
Peace out,
live,
guys.
bro.
I would because look, after everything Evie said about Sheffield, I mean, say no more. Let's keep you for Malta. Let's wait for Malta. So yeah, see you
Let's
guys
go,
there.
brother.
Yeah. Okay. See you there, guys.
Take it
Cheers,
easy,
guys.
guys.
Bye.